Star Wars Echoes: The Trial of Darth Vader, Part 2. Master Skywalker, this is absurd, Madine began, but Luke pushed right past him. You say you lack the resources to contain him, Luke pressed, his eyes locked onto the Chief of State. I am the resource. You fear he will become a figurehead for the Imperial Remnant? Then let us go find them. We will hunt down the Moffs and the warlords who refuse to surrender. We will fight them on the fringes, outside your borders, where the New Republic bears no political or military responsibility for our actions. He glanced back at the towering, silent form of his father, then looked back up at the tribunal with absolute conviction. Let us fight them as Jedi. He knows their tactics, their secret strongholds, their supply lines. Together, we can dismantle the Remnant from the shadows before they ever have the chance to unite against you. You get your security, the galaxy gets peace, and the New Republic keeps its hands clean of blood. Luke finally stopped, his chest heaving as he breathed in the cold, metallic air of the chamber. He didn't dare look back at his father again. He could only watch Mon Mothma, waiting to see if his desperate gamble had struck Kyber, or if he had just signed their death warrants. The silence stretched, agonizingly thin, until Mon Mothma broke it. Her composure shattered. Have you completely lost your mind, Luke? She demanded, her voice dropping its measured, diplomatic cadence and adopting a sharp, furious edge. She slammed her hands onto the bench, leaning so far forward she looked as though she might leap down into the well of the courtroom. You are asking us to trade the savior of the rebellion for its greatest enemy. You are not just a pilot anymore. You are a symbol. You are the vanguard of the new Jedi Order, the hero who stood before the Emperor and lived to tell of it. The Republic needs you. The people need to see you rebuilding, guiding us, standing as a beacon of justice, not throwing your life into a black hole for this creature. Her words stung, but they didn't penetrate. Instead, Luke's thoughts drifted back to the quiet corridor, away from the courtroom, back to his sister. A sharp, physical pang of guilt twisted in his chest. He was abandoning her. He was leaving Leia alone to carry the immense, crushing weight of statecraft, to build a new galaxy without him. He was breaking a promise he hadn't even voiced yet. But right behind the guilt came a sudden, blinding dawn of hope. There would be others, he realized, remembering Yoda's final words. The galaxy was waking up from a 20-year nightmare. There would be new Jedi, not just Leia, but children born on distant worlds, hidden survivors stepping out of the shadows, scholars and idealists. Those far better equipped than a moisture farmer to navigate the treacherous waters of Coruscant politics and help steer a new government. His purpose wasn't to sit on the new Jedi Council or smile for the Holonet cameras. His purpose was right here, standing against injustice. Luke took a slow, steadying breath, grounding himself in the present. He looked directly into Mon Mothma's furious, grieving eyes. Please, Mon, he pleaded, his voice dropping to a soft, urgent whisper that carried through the cavernous room. It is the only way. The High Command sat frozen. Mon Mothma looked at him, her chest heaving, torn between political pragmatism and her genuine affection for the young man who had saved the galaxy. Then, a new sound cut through the room. The vocoder hummed, a low electronic vibration frequency shifting in the broken chest piece. It was a sound that made Madine flinch, made Akbar grip the edges of his chair, and caused Mon Mothma to instantly recoil. When the voice finally came, it was deep, mechanical, and heavy with a terrifying, gravelly exhaustion. The voice of a specter speaking from the bottom of a grave. I do not seek your mercy, Vader said, his chin dipping a fraction of an inch, as if the mere weight of the helmet was too much for his frayed neck to support. Father, don't, Luke whispered, stepping closer, but the towering machine did not turn to look at him. The dark lenses remained fixed squarely on the panel of judges. I have caused irreparable damage, the voice continued, hitching on a sudden, wet click of the respirator before forcing its way through the vocoder again. I will not allow my survival to breed more. Not for this galaxy. A low, mechanical sigh escaped the suit's filters, sounding terribly like a dying gasp. And not for my son. The helmet turned then, slowly, looking down at Luke for the very first time. The dull black plasteel offered no expression, but through the Force, Luke felt the sudden, crushing weight of a father's final, absolute resolve. Pass the sentence. Vader addressed the tribunal, his tone flat, final, and entirely steady. Let it end here. No! The word tore from Luke's throat, raw and panicked. The serene, detached composure of a Jedi Knight vanished in an instant, replaced by the desperate terror of a boy about to lose his father all over again. He grabbed the rough, scorched edge of Vader's forearm armor, his fingers digging into the metal. No, I didn't bring you back just to watch them kill you. We can leave. We can fix this. Luke, the mechanical voice interrupted softly, carrying a bizarre, haunting note of tenderness that the vocoder seemed entirely unequipped to translate. What you have done, it is enough. Up on the high bench, Mon Mothma closed her eyes, the fury draining from her face, replaced by a profound, heavy sorrow. She glanced sideways at Akbar. The old Mon Calamari admiral shook his head slowly, his large eyes downcast. She turned her gaze to Madine. The general offered a tight, grim nod of reluctant agreement. Luke held his breath, his hand still anchored to the scorched plasteel of his father's arm. Mon Mothma returned to face Luke, resting her hands against the bench. When she spoke, the fire was entirely gone, replaced by a deep, weary resignation. By majority ruling of this tribunal, she announced, her voice echoing softly in the cavernous room, the defendant is released into the sole custody of Luke Skywalker. Luke's chest surged with a sudden, dizzying rush of relief, but Mon Mothma raised a sharp hand to cut off any gratitude. You will have exactly 2 hours to say your goodbyes, gather what supplies you can carry, and leave New Republic space, she ordered, her tone turning as cold and unyielding as iron. You will journey into exile on pain of immediate death. If you cross back into our borders, you will be hunted down and executed without trial. Do you understand, Master Skywalker? I understand, Chief of State, Luke said, his voice steadying. Thank you. Mon Mothma looked at him, a flicker of genuine tragedy crossing her features. Do not thank me, Luke. You are right about one thing. We are pouring the foundations of something new. But the galaxy is too raw, too broken, to accept the return of the Jedi while the ghost of the Sith still walks among us. The Republic must rebuild, and for the time being, it must do so without you. She looked down at her datapad, her fingers trembling slightly as she punched in a series of administrative commands. Let the official records show that both Jedi Knight Luke Skywalker and the Imperial Enforcer Darth Vader perished in the explosion of the second Death Star over Endor, she read aloud, her words sealing their civilian fates. All evidence, transcripts, and recordings of this proceeding are hereby classified under Security Directive 0. They will be sealed indefinitely under the highest authority of the Office of the Chief of State. She paused, looking directly into the recording matrix, her expression chillingly absolute. Furthermore, the handful of Alliance personnel with direct knowledge of the defendant's survival, including Princess Leia Organa and the command crew of the Home One, are hereby bound by military oath to absolute, permanent secrecy. Any breach of this silence will be treated as high treason against the New Republic. She looked up one last time, her gaze lingering on the boy she had watched grow into a hero. May the Force be with you, Luke. Guards, clear the chamber. 17 years later. The crimson sand of the Outer Rim world was choked with the black smoke of burning vaporators. "I told you the canyon was a bottleneck," Jaina Solo yelled, her violet lightsaber flashing in a blur as she deflected a barrage of blaster fire back into the rogues. "And I told you the sensor sweep was clear," Jacen snapped back. He parried a vibro axe from a charging pirate, using a telekinetic burst to hurl the marauder into a rusted Durasteel crate. He reached for his hip, his stomach dropping. Jaina? What? I don't suppose you've seen my lightsaber?" Jaina kicked a pirate in the chest, her eyes rolling. "Another fine mess you've gotten us into. Han Solo's kids, trapped by a third-rate pirate syndicate. Dad is never going to let us live this down." The blaster fire suddenly ceased, replaced by the heavy, crunching footsteps of boots on gravel. The marauders parted, clearing a path for a massive, odious Dawitan draped in stolen armor, a heavy, repeating blaster slung over his shoulder. "The great Solo twins," the Overlord gloated, his wet, guttural laugh echoing through the canyon. "The New Republic's prize prodigy. You've put a massive dent in my operations these past few weeks, children. The Hutts will pay a king's ransom for your heads. Or maybe just your lightsabers." Jacen and Jaina backed up until their shoulders touched, their breath ragged, searching the Force for an escape route. The circle was closing. There were too many of them. The air pressure in the canyon plummeted. The Dawitan Overlord stopped laughing. A sudden, chilling breeze swept through the ravine, carrying with it a strange, terrifying stillness. The pirates looked around nervously, their weapons wavering. The Dawitan's massive nostrils flared, a sudden primal realization of fear rippling across his face. He didn't look at the twins. He looked up. At the lip of the canyon stood a single, hooded figure, draped in travel-worn, dark robes. Before a pirate could even raise a rifle, the figure descended, not falling, but dropping like a stone, landing soundlessly in front of the twins. A sharp snap hiss echoed through the canyon. A brilliant emerald blade cut through the dust. The stranger moved like water. He guided the blade with flawless, terrifying finesse. Blaster bolts redirected with lethal precision into the weapons of the attackers, shattering them instantly. With a casual sweep of his left hand, a concussive wave of the Force erupted, sending half the pirate contingent flying backward into the canyon walls. Within 30 seconds, the battlefield was utterly silent. The remaining pirates, including the terrified Overlord, broke rank and fled into the wastes, abandoning their armor and weapons in a desperate bid to survive. Jacen and Jaina stood frozen. The stranger stood amidst the dust, the green blade casting long shadows against the rock. With a quiet hum, the lightsaber deactivated. The figure reached up with a gloved hand and pulled back the heavy hood. The face underneath was lined with age, silver hair dusting his temples, and eyes that held the profound weight of a galaxy. Yet they sparkle with a sudden, warm amusement. "Well," Luke Skywalker said, a crooked smile breaking across his face. "Don't just stand there. Your grandfather has been dying to meet you."